right, good morning, Internet. And welcome to another episode of How I Met Your Mortgage. This is actually episode 42 of Season 2. It means we must be getting close to the end of the year. I'm Adam Smith with Just the Tips Coaching. With me as always, well, not as always, but most of the time is our marketing director, Jen Waybauer. Good morning, Jen. And we've got, there you go. And we've got a really special guest for you guys this morning. Somebody we've had on the books for a long time and are excited to have with us. Sean Savitt with Live Lux. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good. And thank you so much for joining us. And wow, already some viewership there. Good morning, Ben. So as always, if you guys have questions for me, for Jen, for our guest Sean in this case, certainly feel free to ask them, and we'll certainly do our best to answer them. But yeah, we are definitely excited about this episode. So Sean, let's get right into it. I know your background. Obviously, our audience may not, and I know that you come from a art background, a graphic design background. But give our audience the nitty gritty. How did that translate into real estate? When did you get started? Give us all that cool stuff about how Sean got into the real estate game.
Yeah, like you said, I went to art school, studied marketing, graphic design, photography, and I love the creative aspect of it. So I did that for years. I designed for Vail Resorts, Constellation Wines, Canada, natural gas, and pretty big names, all the stuff I wanted to do when I was in school. And when I started doing it, the experience wasn't really what I expected. Loved the artistic aspect of it, but really my days consisted of sitting at a desk in an office, plugged in, headphones on. There was no people. And before that, before going to school, I did a lot of sales. I traveled the country doing door-to-door sales. And as much as I hated that, I loved the people, I loved the stories. And when I was in marketing and kind of towards the end of my marketing career as a channel, I didn't have the touch with people. And that really bothered me. I feel like I'm energized by the interaction with people, and I was missing it there. And so I had some friends that were in real estate. They talked about it. I saw what they did, and I was like, wow, that could be a career. I had some big life changes going on, so I left marketing. And I actually worked for K&H Home Solutions on like their trade shows. So 14-hour days on my feet, talking to people, and I loved it. 14-hour days was not, on paper it sounds terrible. But I'm meeting people, I'm hearing their stories, I'm hearing about their houses, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to real estate school. I studied online, so I was able to come home after that and then kind of get it in. I ended up getting licensed, and some of my connections sent me to what's now Berkshire Hathaway. It was Innovative Real Estate with Scott Norby, and they had an incredible program. I got to learn contracts, I got to learn, everything you don't learn in school. I was kind of thrown in and given a chance to figure it out. What I was kind of experiencing, though, was all the agents around me were getting business. It was coming from friends and family and groups that they were in, and at the time I didn't really have that. I had just gone through a divorce. If you've ever experienced that, there's this kind of moment where I wasn't really sure who my friends were, who my network was, who went with me, who went with her. I didn't really know. And probably most of it was in my head was I didn't have a network. I didn't have anybody. I'm a big advocate of you are the average of the 5 people around you. So I looked at the 5 people around me, and I was kind of embarrassed and a little bit ashamed. It was not where I wanted to be, where I spoke that I was going to be. It wasn't building me up to get there. So I started looking at, okay, well, what do I need? Who do I have? And how am I going to connect that? How am I going to get more of that? So at that time, I had one person in my life that I was like, this guy, if all my friends were like him, I'd be okay. And so I spent more time with him, and I met his friends, and they became my friends, and then I met their friends. And I started selling a couple homes. It was kind of towards the end of my first year. And I was like, wow, I think I could do this. And then, I was selling kind of beginner level, entry level homes, $200,000, $300,000 homes. And I was like, okay, well, this is a lot of work, but it's the same process if I was selling a bigger home. So I reanalyzed my 5 people, and I was like, okay, well, maybe I could take this to the next level. So I kept in that network of 5, here's my best. Now, where would people go? What would they do? What activities are in their life that I can go meet them and put them in my circle? And so instead of going out, I was probably going out 4 or 5 days a week, single bachelor, watching football games, whatever sport I could pick up at a bar and, kind of find the guy sitting there, talk to him, and, maybe he was here on business, and I pick up some deals. I changed that. I was like, well, maybe I go out once a week. I go to a nice place, get a little dressed up, spend some money on some clothes, and present myself, and maybe I'll meet someone who is where I aspire to be. And sure enough, 6 to 12 months later, that was my network. I went from selling $200,000 homes to $800,000 homes, and the process was the same except a little bit easier. And to this day, I follow that same philosophy. Every year, when I'm doing my business planning for the next year, it's not always what are my 5 activities, but who are my 5 people? What is my tribe, and how am I interacting with them, and what quality are they? And that's what got me here today.
That's brilliant. And yes, we absolutely also subscribe to the philosophy that all of you watching, and me and Jen and Sean, we are the direct result of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And one of the cruxes that we really focus on that particular philosophy is all of our coaching clients and all the originators and real estate agents that want to tackle first-time homebuyer stuff, first-time homebuyer classes. And I don't have anything against that kind of activity, and I do think it's uber important to educate the population about those kinds of things, buying a home, owning a home, the financial logistics behind it, etc. But if you guys are starting this down, you want to get to a point where you're going to build a strict repeat and referral business, understand that if you're attracting by your organic lead gen activities like first-time homebuyer classes, that your first-time homebuyer might need down payment assistance, their credit isn't great, they don't have any money for a down payment, they're going to qualify for a $300,000 home, which we know here in the Denver market, is a condo, maybe a townhouse, maybe. That person is still the direct result of the 5 people they spend the most time with. And if they're going to be referring you more buyers, more sellers, it's going to be a similar type of audience, a similar type of clientele. And do you really want to build your entire repeat and referral business off of those types of buyers? And again, some people do. There's an enormous intrinsic reward in helping people get into their first home, no question. But we do caution everyone we interact with to remember that when we're focusing on building a strict repeat and referral business, that the people that are referring you business are going to be just like themselves. So it's very, very important. And if you guys listen to what Sean did, what those activities were early on in his career to shift his audience, to shift his clientele, it made an enormous impact on his business just by who he's spending the most time with, who he's getting referrals from, who he's working with, because of that psychological theory that we are the direct result of the people we're spending the most time with. So, Sean, thank you. I think that really lends something valuable to our audience here, and I'm not sure that it's something we've ever really discussed on the show. Jen, am I wrong?
Cut out on me, say it again.
Oh, I don't think that we've ever discussed this on the show before. The psychological precept of us being who we spend the most time with.
We haven't talked about it that much.
Yeah, so...
and I'll add one more piece to it. We're also who we believe we are, or will become who we believe we are, So while I was in, doing my thing, I'm looking at other agents, and I'm seeing agents that have been in the business 10, 20, 30 years and have never done $1 million deal, or have been in the business, 10, 15 years and have been all buyers. And hey, I want to start doing listings, and they're looking at it not in their first 4 to 5 years who don't want to be as an agent, but they're looking back and they're saying, gee, I want to make this transition. And seeing that, I looked at it and said, well, why would I wait 15 years to decide I want to be listing heavy or I want to work on $1 million home? You just decide now. And that is a real life example. There was another agent I was working with, and she had been in the business 10, 15 years, and she was making that transition, and I'm going to start doing more listings. And I made that conscious decision too, like, hey, I could do that now. And from last year, 2018, I was 80-85% buyers, to this year, I literally flipped it and went 80-85, probably even 90% listing, and decided to do so. And I think something that I wish I had heard early on, I don't have to wait till I work with 100 buyers to decide, hey, I'm going to start doing listings. Or I sold 100, $200,000 condos, now I'm going to go work on $1 million listing. What you do today becomes what you are tomorrow. And I wish I heard that earlier, but I'm certainly glad I heard it when I did.
Yeah, that's actually really sharp, and I do want to circle back to that because I think it's an important transition piece when it comes to what you changed in your lead generation activities to go from repping mostly buyers to repping mostly sellers. I think that's really an important piece of the puzzle. But let's back up just a little bit and tell us, in those early days, so you're working with a lot of small buyers, you're working strictly with buyers for the most part, you're new-ish to the business. What were those lead generation activities like for you? What were you doing to make sure that people knew who you were and what you do? And where did those first, dozen clients come from over that first year or so?
Yeah, the first year I was doing a lot of Zillow, like foreclosure lists. So just dialing. I had a great friend at the time who was also new into the industry. Instead of going out on a Friday night, we holed up in a conference room, much like this, grab a 6-pack and a pizza, and we'd start dialing numbers. It's what I knew from my past. I knew from what other people told me, if I did it, it would work. It worked a little bit. I certainly wouldn't say it compared to the energy I put into it. But yeah, I got my first few deals. I pulled them off Zillow, just returning calls and stuff like that. I wasn't paying for it. It was something that was coming from the brokerage at the time. My real first deal that came from me, not just from dialing these numbers. So I sat down and I said, okay, what do I want to do? And I ended up joining a Frisbee golf league. We get out, we go play Frisbee golf, you meet new people every week. And afterwards, while you're waiting for the rest of the group to finish, you'd be sitting in the parking lot. And I had a sticker on the back of my car that was like, I heart real estate. It was that simple. And somebody walked up and he goes, hey, he pointed to the sticker and he's like, do you work in real estate? I'm like, yeah. Residential? I'm like, yeah. I had no idea how to talk about this. Nobody had approached me before. So I'm just like one word answers. I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, my wife and I just got pre-approved. Can you help us buy a house? And I was like, oh my God, that just happened. But I had this huge realization that I hated talking about, like, I'm a realtor, and then like my voice would drop and people were like, oh, I had this own idea, this own stigma of what it was to be a real estate agent. And I was like, well, hold on a minute. I go back to my marketing days. I'm like, if people already know what I do, I don't have to tell them. They're not going to ask like that. So I started getting T-shirts and hats and stickers, and I put it everywhere. Not like I'm going to throw up my brand in your face. But if I had a hat that just says I love real estate, people know what I do, and they're going to ask me. And instead of me waiting for my opportunity to say, hey, I'm in real estate, where are you at? They're going to ask me, hey, how's the market? And that was kind of the foundation of what I do as far as where I come from in my marketing is I'm very passive. I'm not going to make those calls cold calls anymore. I'm not going to do huge brand marketing. I'm just going to let you know I'm in real estate, and you get to know me, and you'll find out that I care. And that's it.
So, for those of you watching or now live or in syndication, Sean makes a really important point here that I want you guys to pick up on. He is doing the two things that you all need to be doing, no matter what it is you're selling, making sure people know who you are, that's the tough part, and what you do. He eliminated that what you do part because of the sticker on his car. That was eye-opening, mind-blowing stuff to him. And if he's able to get across without any equivocation, without any doubt, what he does, that he's a real estate agent, then he gets to focus on the who he is, letting people know what he's about, what he's like, what he's into, whether it's Frisbee golf or watching football in a sports bar. And he gets to focus on attracting like-minded people that he would want to work with and would work with him, enjoy working with him. He gets to, as a byproduct, repel the people that he wouldn't want to work with and that wouldn't want to work with him, which is of huge benefit as an ancillary byproduct. And really, that's the crux of this, is that you guys all need to be making sure everybody knows who you are and what you do. Now, here's the neat thing that was a result for Sean that will be for you guys too if you're able to exercise that kind of activity, that he no longer has to have a conversation about being a real estate agent. He actually gets to have conversations about real estate, which is an enormous difference. Somebody already knows he's a real estate agent. They're asking him what the market's like. What could they get for their home? Is it a good time to buy, to sell, to invest? So he actually gets to have conversations that put him out there as an expert, that he's knowledgeable, that he knows his market, rather than merely having to try and make sure people know what he does. That's an enormous step in his career, and hopefully for a lot of you as well. And if not, it certainly needs to be, and it needs to be soon. So, Sean, thank you. That is huge. All right. So, no, please.
The response that I get when that happens, it's not necessarily, hey, how's the market? A lot of the times it's, I just mentioned to my wife that we need a bigger yard, or I just had family in town and it was so inconvenient. That these are the comments I'm getting. They're commenting on their current situation, which means I'm getting my foot in the door before any decisions are made, before anyone else gets interviewed. They're coming to me. It's more of a personal comment about their life and what's not working. And I take note of that. And the next time I see them, what do you think I'm going to talk about? Hey, how's it going? Have you had more guests in town? Have you guys looked at another house at all to know what you're giving up and what that could look like? I mean, that bridge is so simple. It's no longer about, hey, tell me something logical, give me stats, give me figures. It's 100%, here's the pain I'm having in my life. And from a sales perspective, you tell me your pain, I'm going to fix it.
I'm going to solve it. That's all you guys have to do. Solve the pain. No question. That is fantastic. All right. So circling back, tell us what lead gen activities did you shift from repping mostly buyers to mostly sellers?
So, I would say it's kind of hard to say exactly one activity, because I don't think there was one activity that made that shift. It started with my language. If I went back through my Facebook page or any of my feeds, that's a mirror of how I'm showing up and how I'm communicating. So I'll go back and I'll scroll through and I'll say, what am I conveying to people? And when I have that realization, and then from that desire that I wanted to be more listing heavy, I went back and I looked at my language, and all my language is focused on buyers. Hey, let me show you this house. Hey, let's go out this weekend. All I'm talking to are buyers. Of course I'm not getting listings. So as soon as I did the same activity, say I did an open house, instead of an open house I'll shoot a little video or I'll do something like that, instead of my language being, hey, I'm going to help you find a house, either this one or a similar one, it's more focused on, check out my open house, look at this 17-foot flag, look at my video, feel my energy, don't you think this could sell your house? I did the exact same activity. I just changed my mindset and I changed my language.
That is exactly the word I would use, is the mindset.
And that's where it all begins. I made the decision. And then I started talking about it. The more I talk about it, I'm creating it. And one listing led to another listing, led to another listing. That's kind of how that goes, you know?
All right, so tell us, and this isn't necessarily circumnavigating around lead generation activities, but I know at some point in the not too distant past you made a shift from being an agent to Berkshire to having your own brokerage. Tell us what the catalyst for that was, what those activities looked like. Was it difficult? Give us some, how long ago was it? Those kinds of things.
Yeah, so the official change happened the beginning of this year. In the last month, I've been licensed and approved to start bringing on agents and actually building it out. So right now it's me building the brand, bringing my marketing expertise to it, figuring out our systems. So it's fresh, and it's pretty exciting. For me, this is something I've always aspired to do. I've watched other people do it, and I'm like, once again, and I think I have a history of this, the question becomes, what am I waiting for? You know, any other industry, the last brokerage I was at Keller Williams, and I was paying pretty big fees, wasn't really getting a whole lot back. Some of it was because I wasn't using it. It didn't align with me. Some of it was a new office at the time. And I was like, what am I paying for? So any other industry, if someone says, hey, you could get a $20,000 or $30,000 raise this year, who's going to question it? But in real estate, we do. We stay with the brokerage, even if we're not using it, because it's comfortable. And so when I actually looked at the process, the hardest part of the process of going into your own brokerage or going independent is finding what the steps are. That's literally the hardest part. But once you find the steps, it's relatively simple, as long as you can follow instructions. I think part of my drive was that, so I came from Innovative, which is now Berkshire, and I learned the foundation. I learned that I'm a little different. I was up at Ninja training in Fort Collins. I met a bunch of agents from the New Era group at York Castle, and I loved it. Loved the energy, loved the people, closer to my age, didn't have kids, weren't doing photos with Santa. Like, my friends wouldn't go to that if I paid them to. They were doing happy hours. They were doing other things that more aligned with my efforts at the time. And I did that. It was a much lower split, but I really wasn't getting many resources. I wasn't getting much back. If I wanted something, I had to do it. So I started to learn. I had options when it came to brokerages. I could pay more and get more, or I could pay less and get less. But the question became, even if I'm doing that, am I using that? And if my process that I created that I know works for me doesn't align with what they're offering, even if it's inexpensive, there's no point to being there. So the new Keller Williams office is opening. I hear about it, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to go check this out. It's big on team building. I knew my next step was I was loving coaching new agents. I love to teach them, help them find their excitement, and then how do you go do what I did? How do you go find your core people? How do you talk to them? What do you do? I loved it. So Keller Williams came to me and they're like, hey, how would you like to build a team, and we're going to coach you? And I went, and it just wasn't for me. It wasn't my culture. It wasn't my people. I think their system's great. I think they have a lot of really, really good stuff there. Just wasn't for me. So I went and I literally interviewed 12 brokerages. I didn't interview for them. I interviewed them. I had questions this time. I was ready. Small boutiques to other big names. And I just kind of figured out nobody's offering, everything's a cookie cutter. And none of it fit what I was doing. Because I was a little outside the box. Like, it just, nobody did it exactly the same way. So no matter what I was finding, I was paying for something I wasn't going to use. So I went, switched into independent, and I did that about a year now. And I have found that it's amazingly a perfect fit for what I do, because I'm making it. And in this time, I've been talking to other agents, other brokerages in other states, boutiques, larger teams, and I'm looking at what exactly is going on? What are people using? What are they not using? What are they paying for? What do they get? All that type of stuff. And it really came down to, there's two things that are really important. Your transaction coordinator, and if you don't have a transaction coordinator, go get one. Because that's a waste of your time. I hate to say it, but it's a waste of your time. Get a really good coordinator. If you need one, I'm sure other agents can recommend you somebody. That's number one. So I knew I wanted to provide that. If you didn't have one, I want you to have one. And then step two, marketing. When I say I left marketing, I really didn't. What I do today is exactly what I did when I was doing marketing for marketing companies. I was helping these businesses do exactly what we do as a realtor. So if you think you're not in marketing, you need to look at your business, because we're all marketers. And if I figured out that if I could provide those two things, marketing, whatever it looks like to any agent, help them develop a brand. I don't want to sell Keller Williams. I don't want to sell Remax. I want to sell me. I'm the one doing the work. I'm the one I'm selling. Why am I putting Remax on there, or whoever it is? So I feel brand's important. So that's another thing that when I started doing this was I wanted TC because I want that experience to be smooth, and I want you to focus on more business for the lives of your current clients. I want you to be there, be the person, be personable, be you. Marketing, so people know who you are, to help share that message. That was really important. And I think when I put these all together, I was like, wow, this is something that, is very low cost, but huge value. And when I sat down, I was like, okay, I'm going to start bringing on agents. That was my goal. Low cost, huge value, and something that's flexible to fit the agent that comes in. So if one agent's doing mailers, let's help with their mailers. If one's doing events, let's help with their events. But ultimately, let's help create your brand, your culture, who you are. And so that's where I am today. That license came through like 2 weeks ago, maybe closer to a month ago, and I'm excited to kind of reveal this, show people what I'm doing, and just make their lives easier. I think there's a lot of drama and a lot of waste in our industry.
No, there certainly is that. And for those of you watching, and just because we never really get to cover the content, even though we're asked all the time, our coaching clients and other people that come to our mastermind events ask us all the time about what company they should be at, and I don't know. Again, I think you said it really well, Sean, that, if you want to pay a lot, you get a lot. If you want to pay a little, you get a little. There's a balance in there. It's a very personal decision as far as what company you're working for. And you're not really working for the company. You're working for your client. They're the ones that pay you regardless. Yeah. But I do think that that's an important piece of the puzzle. And as always, I'm just stunned by how quickly these 30-minute episodes run out on us. And I want to make it really clear to everybody watching, whether you're in real estate and maybe you're looking for a change, or you're a consumer looking to buy or sell, you're a potential referral partner in mortgages, insurance that you would really click with Sean. I want to make sure that we get all of you covered with the opportunities that Sean would provide. So, Sean, give us the highlights of how all of these people could reach out to you. What's the best method? Email, cell phone, carrier pigeons, social media, and
any of them work. I think that's the thing. The more channels coming in, the more people that I'm able to reach. And so, if you go to our website, it's liveluxre.com. It's spelled LIVLUXRE.com. There's phone numbers, there's email addresses. I'm on all social media. You can message me through there. The nice thing about technology is whatever resource you use, it all goes to the same place. Phone number 720-730-7332. Happy to talk about what we're doing, what opportunities are there, or just let you know a little bit about my experience at other brokerages and kind of what's out there and what you can expect if you're new and kind of looking for that. However I can help, that's what I'm here for.
That is fantastic. All right, so we're going to wrap this episode up. All of you watching, thank you so much for the time. Sean, I cannot begin to express how fantastic this episode has been for us. We've obviously got a very symbiotic mindset on a lot of how this works. I would certainly invite Jen to give us a little bit of her input, but obviously the internet connection at the office is a little sketchy this morning. Jen, if you can hear and speak, then and we're not leaving you hanging, let me know.
Pretty bad, but thank you, Sean.
All right.
So you guys have me on, and I love sharing what I've learned in my experiences. And this is a great platform for that, and I love that you do this. So
well, thank you. And for those of you watching, if you want more information about us, about Sean, if you want to see previous episodes, if you want to get our weekly video blog, which is just, it's the weekly little tip, things you can do to help generate more leads. If you want a copy of my book, just the tips. If you want to be a guest on the show, use that text code scrolling across the bottom of your screen, text tips to 63566, and we will see you guys next week. Thanks, everybody.